Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Shep. You guys are the kindest two brokers I know, and I appreciate your support a lot. It's been a very fun and joyful ride the last few years watching the growth of your company. It's been, I remember our first, and your agents done this, our first couple of calls we had together probably now 4 years ago. And Alex and Shep and I were trying to determine what we wanted the company to look like 4 to 5 years down the road. And I will tell all the agents, Alex and Shep have accomplished all those big changes they had to make. And I hats off to both of you. And it's been a great ride, and it's only going to get better. So hopefully we can have a good positive effect today again. So if you can picture this, I started the company 46 years ago, as Alex and Shep know, and that obviously makes me a lot older than I'm sure most people think I am. So I'm 76, and my doctors told me good news last week. They said they think I only have about 14 or 15 more years of doing events all the time before I'm going to have to slow down. And I said, hope you order me a walker to use. So it's going to be a fun 14 or 15 years. When I started Alex and Shep, there's a place in Los Angeles called Ventura Boulevard. And in 1975, if you can picture, it was a 1.5 mile stretch of prime real estate on this boulevard, and there were 100 residential real estate companies. So every time you parked your car, you were in front of a real estate office. If you walked out of one office and you fell down, you landed in another office. So I went up and I decided I would just prospect on that street looking for clients. In those days, we had the old-fashioned floor schedule. Somebody was watching and answering the calls from 9 to 11, 11 to 1, 1 to 3, 3 to 5, etc. So every office, I got to talk to somebody. I asked everybody one question. I walked in the door and I simply said, what is the biggest problem you have in real estate? 91 out of 100 people said the same thing. Our biggest problem is time management. To which I said, why? And I asked everybody the same second question, why? They said, because we're independent contractors. And I said, okay, tell me how you view being an independent contractor. They said, well, we have a great broker, Alex and Shep, and they tell us what to do, but we don't have to do it. Well, what if, and Shep, how many times have you told good agents what to do and they just smile and walk away? So I said, well, if they give you good advice, why wouldn't you follow it? And they said, well, we don't have to. I said, so what you're saying to me is you've got a broker that gives you advice to take listings and make sales and you don't do it. They said, yes. I said, there's a movie called Dumb and Dumber. And I said, I think most of the real estate world has qualified. And of course, people got very mad at me in those days all the time because I couldn't understand why when we have an obvious problem, we don't do something about it. So, and as Alex and Shep know, I've interviewed several, probably now 1,000 great productive real estate agents, not only within Century 21, but all the sister realty companies, Sotheby's, Coldwell Banker, the competition, KW, EXP, etc. And I always ask them one question. And Alex and Shep, you guys will get a kick out of this. I'll say, what is the most important thing you do? What is the most important thing you do to be highly productive? And it's always the same answer. I control the morning schedule. I control the morning schedule.
Hey, so Dad, real quick, I was going to say Anthony's in this call too. He's one of our director of training and partner too. So you just
thank you.
In. Okay, keep going. But you control. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I met Anthony the last time we were together on Zoom. So okay, Anthony, welcome aboard. There's that smiling face. Thank you. So if you can picture, I said, what is your biggest strength? And it was always the same. I was able to control my morning schedule. So I said, define that. They said, well, if I start to work at 8 o'clock, from 8 to noon, I control that 4 hours virtually by the minute. And I don't allow any interruptions. I said, how important is that? They said, the morning schedule between whatever time I start and noon determines the outcome of my entire day. So if I walk in the office, and of course, Anthony, you and I try to make sure this doesn't happen to an agent. If I walk in the office at 9 o'clock and I turn to my best friend, Bob or Mary, and say, let's run to Starbucks for a minute, well, that takes 20, 30 minutes every time. Then we come back at 9:30 and I better check my Facebook account, see what's going on. And, so I'm on Facebook for 20, 30, 40 minutes. And then, of course, there's a couple new listings popped up that I'm never going to show, but I better look at what they are online. Next thing you know, it's 10:30. And then I turn to the agent and say, what have you done to create a listing or a sale since you started to work? Well, Mary and I went to Starbucks and we were discussing a buyer of mine. And then, of course, I was checking Facebook to stay in touch with my clients. Or in essence, I didn't do anything. And the reason for that is, of course, we don't control our schedule. We don't control our time, and we're independent contractors. So I'm going to ask everybody to write down 2 words, if they would, please. Write down the word realistic. The word realistic. And then second, write down the word discipline. The word discipline. Anthony, I have a feeling that you're a disciplined guy. Okay? I just have
try to be.
Well, in looking at you, in looking at your appearance, your dress, your style, working with Alex and Shep, you got to be a little disciplined.
That's right. It's crazy. It's true.
Well, Alex will pick us up by one hand and toss us over the fence if we're not disciplined. So my question I will present to agents all the time, Shep, is I'll say, okay, are you good at managing your schedule? They say yes. Is your schedule realistic? And they say, what do you mean? I said, well, let's take an example. Your goal is to sell 20 homes a year, listings sold, buyer sales. Tell me what's your schedule look like? Well, I prospect 4 hours a day. Well, if you prospect 4 hours a day, you're going to do more than 20 deals. I mean, you cannot stop at 20 because you'll hit 20 by June if you prospect 4 hours a day. So therefore, your schedule is not realistic. And then I'll say, well, how disciplined are you? Oh, man, I'm disciplined. I follow my schedule. And then I look at the schedule and there's nothing on it. There's nothing to follow. So the hardest part of managing our time is accepting the fact that we have to control the morning. We have to be realistic in the anticipations we have. And then, of course, we have to be disciplined to follow the schedule we have. So Anthony, Shep, and Alex, as you know, I'm going to send to Alex and Shep and Anthony right after we're done this morning, all of my notes. I have, I think in this little segment, 17 thoughts on time management. We'll probably cover 6 or 7. I'll forward the notes. You guys can get a copy from Alex and Shep and Anthony. And then you can study this because time management, we could speak all day. And that would be a waste of most people's time because after about 10 minutes, most people blank it out because we are so locked into being independent contractors. So I want to share this thought. I believe that having a schedule of any type can solve almost every production problem an agent has. So let's take Anthony, Alex, and Shep as agents that we're working with. All 3 have different goals for what they want to accomplish. All 3 would have a different schedule. So I'm 100% against an organization, whether it be Century 21 or the Mike Ferry organization or any speaker or coach, holding up a schedule and saying, this is the schedule you have to follow to be productive. I'm against that because your schedule is always based upon the goals you've set. So if I'm talking like I did this morning to Bernie Gallerini up in Tennessee, his schedule is really strong because of the number of transactions he produces. At 6 o'clock this morning, my time, I talked to Zach Bear in Philadelphia. Zach took 5 listings last week. He went on 5 listing presentations. This week, he has 5 listing presentations scheduled. He's pretty sure he's going to get 4. And I said to him, why aren't you going to get 5 listings instead of 4? He said, because Friday I'm meeting you for dinner in Orlando, Florida, meaning me, because we're flying to Orlando on Thursday for our event on the 1st of next week in Orlando. So he had a legitimate reason for not doing more. But his schedule is so strict that if Shep said to me, I want to do 20 deals a year, and you follow Zach's schedule, either you're going to be frustrated, upset, very concerned, or you're going to do so many deals you can't figure out how to handle them all. So a schedule solves problems if you follow the schedule. So I want everybody to write down one word. Write down the word distractions. Write down the word distractions. So I've always determined the level of distractions you have determines the amount of production you do. And it's so interesting because we've gone through as an industry, thankfully, the real estate industry was operating at a high level from when the pandemic started through today. Because if real estate hadn't been operating at a high level, the economy would have collapsed in the United States. The US economy is dependent upon the activities of agents to keep this economy moving forward. And anybody that doesn't understand that doesn't understand the economy. Well, March and April of 2020 were a tough time. Home isolation took place. And some people said, you know, home isolation is good. I don't have anybody to bother me. But then some people said, well, I've got a house full of kids. I got a spouse. We're all stuck in this little 1,200 square foot home, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. We're all driving each other crazy. So the home isolation was either the biggest distraction or the biggest advantage. But then I want you to think about it this way. The office is open. People are coming in again, which is great to see. And now we go from the distraction of the home to the distractions of the office. Distractions are a way of life and a good method to keep production down. And we can always justify distractions because they're important. So I'm going to ask everybody, Shep, to consider the following. Think about what distractions get in the way of you following your schedule daily. And be honest about it, okay? Because, see, for example, our physical office in Las Vegas opened up last June. As soon as the governor said we could open up, now our people have to wear a mask when they're walking around. We have the plexiglass plates on everybody's desk. We have hand sanitizer. We followed all the protocols, and we're lucky. Out of our 45 employees, nobody was sick, okay, because we all paid attention. But what I discovered is the distractions in the office for Mike Ferry were higher than the distractions if I work from home. Now I'm going to say something now that some of your people aren't going to like. So we have a full-time housekeeper that comes in at 9 o'clock Monday through Friday and works till late afternoon. So I do my webinars like today with you folks from my house. I have a home office. Well, she's walked by a couple of times and she nods and smiles, and I have to not pay attention because that's not fair to you folks, because having a person walk back and forth is a distraction. So what distractions take you off your schedule? Is it maybe your iPad? Is it maybe searching for properties? Maybe it's your iPhone. Maybe it's a text and email. Maybe it's...
Dad, my distraction is Shep. What can I do about it? Just joking. And then Anthony too. He doesn't help. Not joking. No, they're great guys.
But then Anthony and Shep tell me their distraction is a guy named Alex. So it's...
goes both ways, right?
A bit of mediation. That's true. Okay.
What Alex forgets is I know him. See, that's what he gets. So we got to look at those distractions. So here's the real challenge in time management. Alex, prior to real estate, what was your career?
Well, I was in me and Shep, I was an Army Ranger. I was in special operations.
And how long were you involved in that?
Probably like 4 years.
Good. Anthony, how long have you been training real estate?
Probably about 14 years.
Wow, good for you. Good for you. So you're more of a veteran of training than Alex is of special operations. 14 years.
That's true. Actually, yeah, he has to do with a lot more junk too. I mean, a lot of tough stuff. I'm just joking, guys. Now people don't get oversensitive on this call. Yeah, you know.
Well, here's what I want everybody to think about. If you ever had a real job where you had to show up at a certain time, perform certain functions, go home at a certain time, you were paid some type of salary for that time. Well, real estate, you don't have to show up on time. You don't have to do anything during the day. You can go home whenever you want, and you may never get paid. So what I'm going to ask everybody to think about is this. Once you've learned about your distractions, which are pretty apparent to all of us, what I want you to think about is this. Alex and Shep and Anthony have made a decision, and I'm saying this tongue in cheek, just so you know. They've decided to pay every single agent in the company a base pay of $100,000 guaranteed, plus commission. Everybody, yay, Alex, thank you so much. Thank you so much. However,
and Mike Ferry is funding this, and thank you, Mike. You're awesome. Woo! That's kidding.
But here's the catch. We have a schedule, and you have to follow it Monday through Friday from 8 to 5 verbatim. And if you break the schedule, you don't get paid. So 90% of the agents in real estate would never take the job. Because you see, the schedule that you follow is the direct path to the production and income you want. So if you treat it like a real job, so for all of us that ever had a real job, and I've had my own company 46 years, so I've always thought of this as being a real job. I didn't have a choice today. 9:30 my time, I had to be on a webinar with you folks. At 6 o'clock, I had a coaching call with Zach Bear. At 6:30, I had a coaching call with Bernie. 7 o'clock, I had a coaching call with Tanya Peak, a big Coa banker agent out of Dallas, Texas. Then I was on the phone dictating to my assistant. Then I had a 9 o'clock coaching call with Randy Thompson, who you know, which is a newer C21 broker in Southern California. Then at 9:30, I have this wonderful time with you guys. I have a schedule. I don't have any choice. Eliminate choices, act as if you have a real job, and your productivity will increase. But that may be the hardest thing I ever ask of anybody. So the next thing I'm going to say, Alex and Shep and Anthony will probably question this for a moment. So hold on to your question before, let me finish the thought. I wrote down, consider limiting the amount of time you work and force yourself to be more effective in the time you work. Okay, this is not a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week job. In the 70s and 80s, that's what real estate was. Everybody carried a beeper. The old-fashioned cell phone was this big. You know, it looked like a shoebox. Everybody had their beeper, their shoebox. They wandered around through life in real estate. Well, see, the truth is, it's not a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week job. Because you have a personal life, you have a financial life, physical life, mental life, emotional life, spiritual life. You have to take care of yourself. And if you don't, you burn out, okay? And if you burn out, you're not any good to the buyers or the sellers, your family, your friends, or the company. So I want everybody to think about this. Compress your time to increase your results. Compress your time. Okay. My wife, Sabrina, Alex and Shep and Anthony know my wife, Sabrina. She's German from Berlin. And, you know, I mean, she looks at me and says, are your papers in order? I go, yes, ma'am. Okay. My papers are in order. And she's constantly telling me, do more in less time to be more productive. Because think about this. If every agent in the company put in 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, of productive time, we could again double the production of the company. So think about the most important thing you can do, which is compress your time. Gives you more time to enjoy. I used to say to people all the time, Alex, why do agents never take days off? because they feel guilty. Why do they feel guilty? Because they didn't work. So they have to work on their days off to make up for the fact they didn't work on their days on. It's a fact of life in real estate, okay? Think of your business of selling real estate as a real job. Think about the level of productivity you want to obtain. Think about the distractions that are getting in the way. And those distractions take us from being productive. Tanya Peak down in Dallas, and Alex and Shep and Anthony, you'll meet her at the Superstar Retreat. She does 150 to 160 deals, personal production. Her team of six does another 200. She hired me as a coach because she wants to go to about 450 deals a year between herself and her team.
Wow.
So, I mean, and she's just a great person and a great agent. So anybody that is listening to us today says to Anthony and Alex and Shep, well, that's impossible. Well, good. I'm glad you're telling yourself that story, because that's not a story that Tanya tells herself. Bernie Gallerini this year, Alex, is going to do 1,000 transactions and 10 million in GCI through himself and his team.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's almost hard to comprehend. Now, you've met Bernie.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if Bernie hadn't been in real estate so long, he'd be in special ops like you. Okay.
You know, he's a good guy. You know, his buddy sends me text messages. He was a Marine. He's like, who's Bernie? He always sits next to this other guy. He's in the Bahamas, traveling the world now.
Josh Barker.
Yeah, Josh Barker.
Another trained Marine. Okay.
Yeah.
And again, if I'm going to have a problem in my life, I want Josh on my left and Alex on my right.
That's right.
Okay. That's for darn. But see, the difference is they're not going to let the world run their schedule. So if everybody worked 6 hours a day, and all we want out of you in the 6 hours is 3 hours of productive time, what would you do in that 3 hours? Conversations, prospecting, following up on your leads, which is vitally important, pre-qualifying any buyers and sellers, setting up listing and showing presentations, negotiating contracts. Well, Mike, if I did that 3 hours a day, I'd probably start doing 30, 40 deals a year. That's okay. Nobody's going to get mad if you start doing 30, 40 deals a year. But how are we going to get to that point? So last week, I had Tanya do something which at first she wasn't excited about. I said, Tanya, on Thursday and Friday, this was on our Monday call together. On Thursday and Friday, I want you to take a scratch pad. When you start to work, write down 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever time it is, write down the word start. Every hour for the day, write down what you did during that last hour. And I want you to be 100% honest with yourself, which I knew she would be. And then on Saturday, forward me those two schedules of those 2 days. And when we talk, which we talked this morning, let's look at that. Well, she sent me a note. Included is my schedule for Thursday and Friday. I was hoping you would delete it because she wasn't as proud of what she had done as she thought she would be. We all think we operate at this level. Most of us operate at this level. How do we learn the difference? Track your time for just a day or so. And then if you're really brave, sit down with Anthony and Alex and Shep after you've tracked your time and sit down for 10, 15 minutes and say, here's what I did yesterday. And let's critique that and see where we can make the changes to be more productive. And then if you're really brave and you have a spouse, mail a copy of that one-day schedule to your spouse at their home. And don't expect a warm reception when they read it, okay? And in fact, I hope you have a divorce attorney on speed dial because you'll probably need it after they see what you've done all day. So track your time hour by hour for a couple of days, okay? But then I'm going to throw one thought that most people will not accept. if you have a schedule and you post it in the office where you see it near your desk, if you have an assistant, you give a copy to your assistant. If you have a wife and a husband at home with the kids, put a copy on the refrigerator. Or in essence, make your schedule as public as possible. Because the more accountability that you have on your schedule, the better chance you have of following it. I have a feeling, Chef, when Alex was in the service, he didn't have a choice as to what he did all day long.
No.
It was probably scheduled right down to the minute, okay? Because it's the discipline and the habit that makes a person good at the work they do. All right, everybody write down one word. I want you to write down the word motivation. The word motivation. And the reason I want you to write down that word is I know Alex and Shep and Anthony know that I worked for Earl Nightingale for 4 years, from 1966 to 1970 in Chicago. And I was very lucky. I got to see him almost every day, which, that's as good as life can get for a young man starting and trying to get a career started. So one day I asked Earl Nightingale this question: tell me what the word motivation means. And of course, in that deep, deep voice that he had, he said to me, Mike, do you want the dictionary version or my version? I said, well, I have a feeling that you're probably smarter than the dictionary, so I don't want the dictionary version. What is your definition of motivation? And listen to what he said, Shep. Motivation, a motive, a goal, an objective to action. Motivation, a motive. I have a goal. I want to, earn $75,000 this year. That's the motive, the goal. And then to the action I have to take to make it happen. And I said, well, why are people more motivated? He said, they don't set a goal. And I said, how could they not set a goal? He said, Mike, 5% of the world sets a goal, 95% do not. And I know Anthony has studied this in his getting ready to teach all the great agents in the company. It's a very, very minor group of people in real estate that have defined goals. So my belief is the stronger the motivation of the agent we're working with, the easier it is to keep them on a schedule. So I'm going to ask everybody to think about the following. If you write down 3 lists for yourself, the first list, now let's face it, the wonderful part of what's happening in the US today is the pandemic now has an end in sight. And, the vaccinations have helped, the smart social distancing, all the terrible things we've had to go through have helped. You guys will get a kick out of this. In Nevada, about 6 months ago, they said anybody over age 70, starting with me, can get the vaccinations done. So I had both shots right away. No after effects, no side effects, nothing. I just took the 2 shots. And I had a lot of people that are friends of mine who are very critical of me for taking the 2 shots. And I said, why? My doctor recommended it. My cardiologist recommended it, and I pay them for their advice. So I took the 2 shots. And then somebody said to me a month ago, you don't know what's in those vaccines. How can you take them? And I said, have you ever eaten a hot dog?
Right.
If you know what's in a hot dog, you're a smarter guy than my doctor. That's for dark. Well, the good news is, whatever is taking place, our country's obviously gone through the worst, and things are getting better and better for us all. And, we all should pat ourselves on the back for going through this, what we've gone through. I talked to my partner in Russia Sunday morning. Moscow is still in a very difficult place. Our partners in Italy are still on lockdown. They're not allowed to leave their homes. So we're very fortunate. However, with this, our motivation changes. So I'm going to ask everybody to write down places I would love to go. So why don't we identify 2 or 3 things as this pandemic ends that you and your family or you could travel to around the US? And how many transactions would you have to do to make that happen? So if you're going to do 15, would it take 3 additional transactions to make that happen? And if you keep looking at the places you'd like to go and realize it's only 3 more transactions, all of a sudden, I'm excited to get 3 more transactions so I can take this trip. But then second, I'm going to ask everybody, Shep, to write down things we would like to have. So you and your spouse sit down, or you and your partner sit down and you say, you know, we'd like to have a bigger home. We'd like to have a little nicer car. All right, how many transactions would it take to make that happen? And then we have a goal or a motivation, okay? And then third, let's write down things I would like to do. Things I would like to do. You know, I'd like to go to the Superstar Retreat in July. Well, it's a big deal. The company is going to be very, very respectful and actually pay for part of your trip if you come out to Las Vegas. You know, we're excited about the fact that, yes, we'll have social distancing in place. And I'm assuming, even though the governor is telling us that all restrictions will be lifted on June 1st, I'm still going to be washing my hands all the time. I'm still not going to be shaking hands. I'm still going to be fist bumping. I'm still going to wear a mask only to protect myself, my family, my friends, my clients. But our opportunities for traveling will increase dramatically as the country opens up. So maybe you put down, I would love to go to the Superstar Retreat. Here's the good news. We don't know, Shep, if they're going to restrict us to 2,000 or 3,000 people. We've always had 4,500. We think it'll be probably a little restricted. The great news is we've already sold 1,000 tickets. Mm-hmm. So we're way ahead of schedule. So I want to make sure that Alex and Mike and Shep talk the first week in May at our management retreat. How do we make sure all of your people attend? Okay, if that's something you want to do. So I'm always looking for what is the motivation to keep me excited about the work I do, because I think Alex and Shep and Anthony know, as crazy as I am, and everybody tells me I'm crazy, and they've told me that for 46 years, I'm excited every day about the work I do. You know, I'm lucky. I mean, this morning I talked to you folks, then I talked to Kevin Sanchez's group, and then I talked to Neil Schwartz's group. I mean, what a great morning, at least for me. So my goal is to do my job 3 times this morning at the highest level possible, so I can say to myself, Alex and Shep and Anthony will be satisfied with the work I do. That's my goal. So it's easy to stay on schedule. So let's stop for a minute, Alex and Shep and Anthony. First of all, from the 3 of you, and then any of your salespeople, any questions you would like to ask, because I've got 17 points that I'm going to send in a few minutes to you to distribute. But I also understand sometimes I give so much information so quick, people have questions. Put them in the chat box, or Anthony or Alex, please. Any questions?
Let me say something, and then I'm sure Anthony has a question. But what I was going to say, guys, it's really important for you guys to go to this Superstar Retreat. We help you go there. We give you about $800 to make it happen. But we have so many good stories about this in our company. We have, actually, I'm going to throw out a couple of names of people that are on this webinar right now. We have a young kid called Cole, Mike. And what's interesting is, I'm not going to get into specifics of the situation, but he had to hit the ground running. He's actually coached too. So he had to hit the ground running. He didn't have any time to kind of screw around. He just had to listen. Well, anyways, he's consistently putting, 8-9 deals a month now. It's actually kind of crazy. It just shows you the power. If you're willing to make a commitment to something, it will happen. Then we have Jackie Leonard. She loves you to death. She'll be there, but she, like 4 or 5 years ago, she was about to get out of the business. And I said, Miss Jackie, just come with us to Mike Ferry Superstar Retreat. Well, she did. and it changed the way her way of thinking, and a bunch of other things. But anyway, she did 100 transactions last year. And so this is like a life-changing event, guys. So please take us up when we say we're going to give you like $800 to go to Vegas, which a lot of you haven't even been there before, and to be with the best real estate agents in the whole world, everyone you see on TV. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. So Anthony, tell me Anthony Shep, what questions you guys have?
Well, I just wanted to make a point, and as soon as Mike said it, it kind of resonated with me. But when he talked about compressing your time to increase your production, and this is something, Mike, that you stress heavily, is one of the ways to do that is to take more listings, because when you have listings, you don't have to spend as much time working because everybody has to come to you.
That's right. And, you know, Anthony, my daughter, Michelle, who you'll meet, is a brand new real estate agent here in Las Vegas. Now, she's worked for the company for 20 some years in various capacities. So she got a real estate license. She's had it 2 months. She's taken 4 listings, which really is extraordinary. And it's not daddy giving her anything, as she's working for it. So yesterday, for the first time, she showed property to a buyer. She started with a buyer at noon. At 5 o'clock, she called me and she said, "Dad, I want to shoot myself." In that 5 hours, I could have prospected and found 2 or 3 more listing leads. And then she said, every time I take a listing, every agent in town wants to show it. Well, I'm simply trying to find my next listing. So, you know, it's a great lesson what Anthony said to all of us. And Anthony, what you and I have talked about in the past, the person that controls the listing is the employer in the community, and the showing agents are the employee. They work for the guy or gal that has the listing. So, folks, pay attention to what Anthony said.
Mike, I have a question. You talked about mastering the morning. What about exercise? I know that's important, health. We talk a lot about that. What about, do you do that in the morning? I know we should schedule that too, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Exercise.
I think what he's gonna, I think what he's gonna say in this, Shep, there's like the people that do it, they exercise early in the morning, and they do like I cut you off, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, you know, for Sabrina and I, we have a beautiful home here in Vegas, and we have a gym in the home. So, you know, I usually do a 6:30 coaching calls. Then I get on the treadmill for 30, 40 minutes. Sabrina's on it every day. So, you know, I'm a great believer in that. I'm not a big believer in exercising in the evening because it wakes me up, and I don't want to be up until midnight, you know, because I get up at 4:30 in the morning. So I'm a great believer in getting the body stimulated mentally, physically, and emotionally. So I'm with you 100% on that. That's for sure.
So Dad, if you wake up at 4:30 in the morning, what are you doing between 4:30 and 6:30?
Well, you know, you take care of your personal hygiene, and then usually around 5 o'clock, I check any emails from the night before, the day before, because I get a couple hundred emails a day. Usually I have a 5:30, 6:30 coaching calls, usually every morning. Then I get on the treadmill, then I get cleaned up and go to the office, and then I get to be virtually distracted all day by staff, because we have 45, 50 employees, and I hear that 100 times a day, staff coming in to ask questions. So I spend most of the day on that. And then I have a couple of days set aside every week where I do the webinars like this for you folks that are part of Elite. So my schedule stays pretty strict. So, you know, at 10 o'clock, 10:30, you know, I'm ready to hit the sack and get some rest and start over the next day. You know, life's a journey, and I look forward to it every day. If you don't look forward to the journey, it doesn't make this whole game of real estate a lot of fun.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Is that how you re-energize yourself? Is like seeing seeing your students pay off and taking amazing trips. Do you ever get burned out, Mike?
Say it again.
Do you ever get burned out?
Oh yeah, we've had a lot of agents burn out over the years.
I mean, I'm talking about yourself.
No, never have. I just don't. You know that. that's an option I choose not to take. Okay. You know, we take at least every Sunday where we do nothing. Saturday, if we're in Newport, where our home is, we see grandchildren there. Saturdays, if we're here, we see grandchildren here. You know, it's a day to enjoy. And then Sunday, I'm a avid NFL and PGA Tour fan. So on Sundays, I get to, you know, sit in front of the TV and watch the PGA Tour or NFL games if they're on. And, you know, let's put it this way. Life is really good if you choose to make it good. Mm-hmm. And I know three guys besides me named Anthony, Alex, and Shep that want to make it better for all of us on this call. So you'll get a kick out of this. My phone just beeped, and it's my assistant, Lori, who you guys know. Mike, hang up because you have to do another one in a couple of minutes. So I will say to Alex and Shep, and I don't know if Anthony is going to be with us in May.
Yes.
Good.
I'll be there.
I'm going to see the three of you in virtually a couple of weeks at our management retreat. And I want to say to all of your great agents, keep up the great work. Okay. You know, keep up the great work, because if you do, the reward's never ending. So I will say thank you to everybody, and I'll look forward to seeing some of you in May. And of course, a bunch of you in July at our Superstar Retreat. And,
hey, I was going to say this, Dad, last thing is, like, I told you 17 before this, but, you know, during this call, you really got me inspired. So I was like, we really need to get 40 people there. We don't need to get 17 people there. So
I got to tell you, I'm not going to be mad about a big turnout from your company. That's for sure. Okay, everybody. Thanks for today. I'm going to hang up and see you all soon. Bye-bye.